Hello, this is the Apauline Christian reading from my book, An Apauline Theology. This is Chapter 7. Chapter 7, Rome, 61 AD. What is an apostle exactly? 61 AD in Rome, Paul was under house arrest, awaiting trial. He had been arrested a few years back in Jerusalem. The crime was starting a riot at the community, as the community in Jerusalem had tried to kill him for being a false prophet. Paul was saved at the last minute by a Roman garrison, and since Paul was a Roman citizen, was allowed to see a trial date in front of the emperor. Paul was in Jerusalem trying to repair his reputation with the church. James, the brother of Jesus, was made the head of the church, and so it was the direction of James that Paul had to obey. Although by going to Jerusalem, everyone knew Paul would be in trouble and might even be killed, Paul still knew he had to go. When he eventually met with James, Paul was asked if he was telling the Jewish people not to get circumcised, or that it was okay to eat meat sacrificed to demons. Paul did not answer. But James still moved forward with a way to bring Paul back into the good favor of the church. James said, "So that everybody knows this is not true of you, you must go through a week-long purification. This way everyone will know that you follow the law, and we can put all these rumors behind us." On the last day of the purification ritual, the mob attacked. Paul had almost finished. As far as James was concerned, Paul had still been in good standing with the church, and felt obliged to make sure Paul got through this trial. Many resources were used in order to see this through. James assigns Luke to write a legal statement for the judge, which grows to become the Gospel of Luke and Acts. Paul then demands a trial in Rome. Since he is a Roman citizen, Peter is also sent to Rome to oversee the situation on behalf of the church. And let me repeat this just because it flowed a little weird. Paul then demands a trial in Rome, since he is a Roman citizen. Peter is sent to Rome to oversee the situation on behalf of the church. Clement, who is a sojourner to the movement and a Roman noble, allows Paul to stay in his villa while under house arrest. In the years Paul waits for his day in court, he finds himself with less support from his old crew and friends. He feels defeated and writes a letter to Timothy, called 2 Timothy. In it, he says Luke is the only one who has not abandoned him, and he needs Timothy to bring Mark and parchment paper. When Timothy does arrive, they use the parchment paper to write many epistles: Philemon, Colossians, Philippians, Ephesians, 2 Thessalonians, and 2 Corinthians. They send them out to all the different churches they had started. Timothy encourages Paul that he is an apostle. New vigor rekindles Paul's energy, and he begins to feel confident again that he is an apostle. But what is an apostle exactly? In Ephesus, the people doubted Paul's claim to apostleship. We can see in 1 Corinthians chapter 9, verse 1 through 2, Paul is dealing with this, but relies on the people who do call him an apostle to validate his claim. In 1 Timothy chapter 2, 5 through 7, he affirmed to Timothy that he was not lying to him about being an apostle, because Jesus really had appointed him personally to be an apostle with a special message to the world. So we see Paul has two reasons to claim apostleship. One, because Paul claims Jesus told him he was. And two, the people Paul told believed him. According to the Bible, to be an apostle, you need to have certain qualifications. He would need to have been a disciple of Jesus since the baptism of Jesus. 2, been with the group during Jesus' 40-day resurrection period before he ascended into heaven. And 3, fill a seat that only consisted of 12 spots, which had already been filled. Paul does not meet any of these requirements according to Acts chapter 1, verses 20 to 26. But we still haven't stated what an apostle is exactly. According to Google, on 18th of March 2025, in Christian theology, an apostle derived from the Greek word apotheos, meaning One who is sent is a person entrusted with a specific mission, often to spread the gospel or represent a leader. And in the New Testament, specifically refers to the 12 disciples chosen by Jesus. So how do churches today deal with the inconsistency in logic? Low churches, such as the kind with an electric guitar, will go as far as to say that their very own preacher can claim to be an apostle. I guess they reason that if Paul could claim apostleship, why not them? The way high churches, like Orthodox, deal with Paul's claim is they say that there was an apostolic age that existed in the first generation after Jesus. They claim up to 500 people have been considered apostles in those days, but then no more after that. At the end of the day, I find that anyone that does not have their name carved into one of the 12 foundation walls of New Jerusalem should not be considered an apostle of Jesus Christ. But that's just me. I am someone who believes in the teachings of the apostles, and I don't take the word apostle lightly. I do not believe Jesus would either. And I'd like to end this chapter, as I do with all, by saying a prayer to St. Jude. Dear St. Jude, please help these words I have written be picked up and tested. Allow the reader to open their Bible and bring forth the true meaning of biblical text for themselves and for those they share it with, especially that they may share their findings with me. Amen.